book, if you want your prince to pop the question, you have to pop these questions up front. And there's certain questions that you can ask, and sometimes women are afraid to find out. So these questions are stemming from looking for 5 essentials in a man. Now, when I coach women, I ask them, okay, what are you looking for in a guy? And sure enough, they list, everybody kind of has the same list. But again, we're not supposed to look at the checklist, but I hear this checklist all the time. Sexy, rich, funny, charismatic, laughs at my jokes, you know. Oh, wait, that was my list. No, wait. So I say, no, these things come after a list of 5 essentials. And they go, 5? I mean, they can't even think of one that comes before those things. I go, yes, there's 5. Okay? So here are my 5 essentials. The first thing, Aristotle again says to begin with the ends in mind. So you have to ask, well, what do I want from a relationship? If you want marriage and children, before you start to have sex with the guy, you have to make sure he wants marriage and children. Some guys don't want children, some guys don't want marriage, some women don't want children. You have to make sure that he wants what you both begin with the ends in mind and you have the same ends, okay? And if you have an expectations ballpark for when you want children, if you're, you know, let's say you're in your 40s and you want to, you know, you want it to happen the next year or two, then you should make that clear. If you're in your 20s and you actually don't want a kid for like the next 20 years, you should say that. Just kind of make sure that you're in alignment. And I have some questions in the book, in the Pop the Questions area, that you can start a conversation going without the guy feeling like, you know, you're asking him to like hurry up and have a baby with you. Like one of the things I suggest in the book is to start a conversation with the guy and ask him, do you think like single people are happier than married people, or married people happier than single people? Do you think you could be happy if you never got married? You just start a conversation that's philosophical. Or do you have friends that are married that have kids? You know, how do you think that's changed the relationship? You start philosophical conversations with them so the guy doesn't feel like you're just like asking him what he wants. And then in that conversation, it will naturally come out. And there's many of these questions. So that's the first thing. The first essential is to make sure that you begin with the ends in mind and you both have the same ends, the same expectation ballpark. The second one is to look for a man that values growing. And the reason is you guys are going to be looking for a relationship of shared virtue, and that's about growing into your best possible self. And modern day researcher John Gottman, who runs the Love Lab, who was in the book Blink, he says that he can predict if a couple will last, not based on how well they get along, but based upon how well they don't get along. You're only as strong as your weakest link, how you handle conflict, right? So you have to look for a guy that when you're having a conflict, he wants to really listen to you, he wants to take some responsibility, he wants to grow. He wants to be a better man. And again, you have to be the change you want to date. You have to want to grow, and when conflict happens, you have to want to deal with it in a very good way. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people, I can describe the breakup of nearly every relationship, even since Aristotle's day, in 3 acts. Act 1, you hurt me. Act 2, because you hurt me, I'm now going to hurt you. Act 3, because you hurt me, I hurt you, then you hurt me, then I hurt you, then you hurt me, and downward spiraling you go. So in the book, I have a whole section on troubleshooting problems with your prince without wanting to shoot your prince. So that's a very important section in the book. Next essential you have to look for is the guy has to know that a relationship serves 2 functions. It's a den of pleasure, and it's a laboratory for growth. Den of pleasure, sex is fabulous, you feel very attracted, you laugh a lot, you feel like this is a good friend, a passionate best friend. This is very important. Aristotle, even though he said you should look for a guy that helps you to grow, or guy-girl thing, he's not a slacker, he's not a prude. He says the soul needs sensory pleasures to be happy. It needs to be stimulated. But these are the means to the ends of being your best possible self. You shouldn't make that the total ends should not be hot sex. So if you just make that your total ends, you're going to wind up again with a relationship of pleasure, a relationship of utility. But you should have it be a den of pleasure, you know. But the thing is, the guy has to want to grow because relationship problems are going to happen. It's inevitable. But you need tools to deal with it.